Hello. Another Monday morning and another reading from Tarot of Ceremonial Magic. It's a book written by yours truly, and it's published by Weiser. And we are on the chapter concerning Goetia and the Goetic spirits that are found on each of the Enochian, on each of the small cards of the Tarot of Ceremonial Magic. And also we're going to talk about the Enochian square off of the Enochian elemental tablets, where I'm pointing right there, that square right there is that square right there. How do I know? Because I read the book. Anyway, yesterday we opened up the discussion on the spirits of the Goetia, the 72 spirits of the Goetia, which are found on the 36 small cards of the tarot in pairs, one for the day and one for the night. And in order to more fully flesh out our discussion about the spirits of the Goetia, I read part of appendix number 4 in the back of this book, which gives even more detail about Goetic magic and magic evocation, Solomonic magic in general. So I'm going to pick up where I left off yesterday in the main text, and I'm going to dive us back into the text. Goetic evocation is one of the most popular and widely practiced forms of Western ceremonial magic. The technique is classic. The magician stands within a magic circle protected by divine names. By means of pure will and an appeal to a higher spiritual power, the magician evokes the spirit into a triangle outside of the circle. The magician then charges the spirit to perform some task which by tradition the spirit is known to be capable of performing. A more complete essay concerning the Goetic evocation is found in Appendix 4 of this book, which is what we just read. Now, what do I mean when I say by tradition the book says the spirit does certain things? When we get to this section where we start talking about the individual small cards, I've got the names of the spirits that are associated with each of the cards, and I give their full description as found in the Lesser Key of Solomon, just to make things easy for us. For the one for Peace Restored, which is the Two of Swords, for instance. The day spirit is Salos, and the night spirit is Orobos. And the description of Salos is, he is a great and mighty duke, and appeareth in the form of a gallant soldier riding on a crocodile, with a ducal crown on his head, but peaceably. He causeth the love of women to men, and of men to women. That's his gig. That's what he does. Now, there's a way to take that quite literally, and look at Salos as sort of a love potion or a love spell spirit. But there's also the idea of the love of men to women and the love of women to men viewed as a metaphor for all sorts of wonderful, another broad spectrum of chores that Salos could do uh, using that description, love of men of women and women to men, uh, as a metaphor. For number 55, Orobos, it says, he's a great and mighty prince, appearing first like a horse. But after the command of the exorcist, he putteth on the image of a man. His office is to discover all things past, present, and to come. Also to give dignities and prelacies, and the favor of friends and foes. He giveth truth answers of divinity and of the creation of the world. He's very faithful unto the exorcist and will not suffer him to be tempted of any spirit. Okay, that's an example or two examples of the descriptions of spirits and how that could be interpreted to be a practical and useful tool in your magical toolbox. The 72 spirits of the Goetia are taken from the first book of the Lemegeton, commonly called the Lesser Key of Solomon, and represent forces which in antiquity were considered fallen angels. The modern magician, however, does not view these spirits in the same sinister light. Rather, they represent imbalanced and heretofore uncontrolled aspects of the magician, himself or herself, which, if properly called forth, controlled, and directed, can be of immeasurable benefit, especially in mundane and material matters. Okay, it's a good match because the small cards of the tarot also concern, or at least handy to give us insight on mundane and material matters. So they're quite at home. Okay, what's next? Like the 72 angels of the Shemhamferish, the spirits of the Goetia are assigned to the 36 small cards in pairs. But unlike the angels of the Shemhamferish, each pair of Goetic spirits represents the entire 10 degrees of their decan. One for the day, found on the lower left of the card, and one for night, found on the lower right. Their names surround their seals. Now, when I get this close, it looks a little blurry there. They're not that blurry on the cards. And if you're not sure of the spelling there, see there's fur. It's all written out quite clearly in the book. Their names surround their seals and are read by starting at the top and reading clockwise. It should be pointed out that the attributes and correspondences of the small cards do not, at least necessarily, define the characteristics of the spirits of the Goetia or vice versa. The spirit Orobos, for example, is attributed to the nighttime hours of the first 10 degrees of Libra. And this period is represented in the tarot by the Two of Swords, peace restored. This does not necessarily mean, however, that Orobos is characterized by the concept of peace restored, or that Orobos can only be evoked between September 23rd and October 2nd. It all depends on the question and how the cards are being utilized. For example, let's say you have an appointment for an important job interview on the morning of August 12th and wish to know what to expect and what your basic attitude should be with the interviewer. You give yourself a simple tarot card reading and receive the Two of Swords as your final card. This indicates that the interview will most likely go well if you stress your ability to work well with others and avoid appearing disruptive or controversial. See, Two of Swords, peace. Or, on the night before your interview, you wish to evoke a spirit of the Goetia to be your magical sidekick at the interview. You give yourself a tarot reading to determine which spirit would be appropriate for such a task and come up with the Two of Swords. Of the two Goetic spirits on the card, Ouroboros seems the most appropriate, and so you evoke Ouroboros and carry his or its charged sigil with you to the interview. Or, let's say you have the same question, but you also have control over the date of your job interview. This time, the Two of Swords would not only give you the proper attitude, but also the proper spirit and the date of your interview, or at least a 10-day spread of the date of your interview. Okay, now let's talk about that Enochian square. The Enochian square from the Grand Cross of the Elemental Tablets. The upper left-hand corner of each of the small cards is found a single Enochian square. This square is taken from the Grand Cross section of each of the elemental tablets. In other words, that particular square with Aries in Mars is found on the Grand Cross of all 4 elemental tablets. I've only got the tablet of fire here as our illustration. And the 2, 3, 4 of wands, or the cardinal fire sign, appear right here on the elemental tablet of fire. But those 3, grouped just like that, appear in a different order in the other tablets of union, the water tablet and the air tablet and the earth tablet. They're sort of shuffled around. The fire tablet, however, this is where we find that 2 of wands. And you see on one side it's blue. That's blue, the elemental rulership of Mars, so it's painted blue. And on this side, it's red for Aries, a fire sign. And that's just what we've got. Right here. So that's why there's no Enochian letter placed on the squares of the small cards, because it's a different letter for every tablet of union that they appear on. I hope that makes sense. Let's see. The Grand Cross is made up of 36 squares arranged in 2 vertical columns, intersected at their center by 1 horizontal row. The vertical column on the left are the cardinal signs. The horizontal row are the fixed signs, and the vertical row on the right are the mutable signs. DuQuette shows how that happens. Okay. Uh, it is the Grand Cross which divides each elemental tablet into the 4 subsections or subangles. And as we already know, each of those quarters of the tablet are represented by the 4 cards. The fire quarter with the knights, and the water quarter, the queens, and the air quarter, the princes, and the earth quarter, the princesses. It's all it's so clean it squeaks. The Grand Cross contains the names of 7 very important angels in the Enochian system, the planetary seniors. These angels, whose names must never be omitted in the invocations of the elemental tablets, are located in the same positions on all 4 tablets. Like that. See? The sun is that whirl, and radiating out from the center are the 7 planets, Saturn, Jupiter, Mars, Mercury, Luna, and whatever else I might have forgotten. Each Grand Cross square, displayed on the small cards of the Tarot Ceremonial Magick, includes the zodiacal and the planetary attributions, which characterize the small cards. There's no letter in the square as it appears on the card because this square occupies a different position in each of the 4 elemental tablets. Example, the 2 of Swords, the first decan of Libra, Moon in Libra, is N on the fire tablet, Z on the water tablet, F on the air tablet, and I on the earth tablet. The following tables show how the 36 small cards are placed on the 4 elemental tablets. By comparing these diagrams with the lettering on the tablets as they appear on the 4 aces of the Tarot Ceremonial Magick, the appropriate letter for each element can be determined. And see, they're in groups of 3s. 2s, 3s, 4s are the cardinal signs. 5, 6, 7s are the fixed signs. 8, 9, 10s are the mutable signs. And they're shuffled around in different orders, depending on the rulership of the elemental tablet in question. Well, is your brain full? I think that's a good place for us to stop today, because tomorrow we're actually going to start going through each of the small cards, 36 of them, of the Tarot of Ceremonial Magick. Now, Wednesday, day after tomorrow night, I have my astral projection Zoom live workshop. It is being very well received, and registration is very good. But as it usually happens at these Zoom seminars, a lot of people try to register on the last day. So if you haven't registered and you think that you're going to wait till late on Wednesday to register, we try to get everybody at the last minute registered. But as we get close to actually broadcast time, both Venice and I become very busy with the arrangements of the presentation itself. And it's really hard to process late registrations or last minute registrations. So if you were thinking about putting it off to Wednesday, I advise not to do that and get registered before that, because the later it is, especially on Wednesday itself, the bigger the chance that you won't be able to make the live presentation. I'm just being honest. Okay. Until tomorrow, continue to be good to yourself and be good to each other. Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. Love is the law. Love under will.